you're going to need a second house.
Lexington Home Brands. Your home, our brands.
Interest-free financing until 2005. Now at Home Furniture.
Is an Eyewitness News special report.
Jesse Ventura shocked the world, and then he went to work.
I do solemnly swear.
He was colorful.
Get her ass out of here!
He was controversial.
A single parent? I don't want to seem hardcore, but why did you become a parent?
And he was often confrontational.
You're smiling. Do you find this humorous?
He liked to speak his mind.
I don't care. When have I ever been appropriate?
At times, he was emotional.
To the victims of 9/11, 2001, God be with you. And be assured, we will never forget.
He was always unpredictable. The Jesse Ventura era as Minnesota's governor is over.
Politics is an interesting game, isn't it?
Now it's time to reflect on his impact on Minnesota.
I did everything I said I'd do. It's been a great honor. I thank the people of Minnesota for bestowing the honor of electing me governor.
4 years ago at this time, the state of Minnesota was still in collective shock, preparing to watch Jesse Ventura get sworn in as governor. It's safe to say many Minnesotans still find his election hard to believe. I'm Tom Hauser. For the next hour, we will relive Ventura's role in a contentious period in Minnesota politics, year by year, with as many of the memorable moments as we can fit in. We begin our look back at a campaign that started as a publicity stunt.
No comment.
Well, why can't you just tell us that?
It's my business, not yours.
Jesse Ventura walked out of KFan Radio for the last time as a talk show host on July 21st, 1998. Are you going to be on the air tomorrow?
No comment.
His gruff, rude treatment of the news media would soon become his trademark. So would his blunt talk on issues.
I will veto any new tax that comes on my desk.
He became a hit at the Minnesota State Fair.
Vote for Jesse the Body. I was screaming, and then we came and we saw this guy, and we're like, oh, I know Jesse the Body! And it was really cool.
They want fair.
At candidate debates, he became Norm Coleman and Skip Humphrey's worst nightmare.
Well, I think it shows obviously who's above all of this, doesn't it? I'm embarrassed as a United States citizen and as a veteran to what both of these two premier parties, the Democrats and Republicans, are sinking to today, from Washington right on down here locally.
But sink they did, again and again.
Okay, let's stop it right now. Let's stop it right now.
You're spending $1 million to go to the radical. Now you're spending $1 million to try and get back.
Stop.
Jesse Ventura on the campaign trail could be nearly as outrageous as the old Jesse the Body.
Good afternoon. The first thing I'll say to you is you're going to find me a little bit different.
So were his television ads.
The new Jesse Ventura action figure. You can make Jesse battle special interest groups.
I don't want your stupid money.
The Jesse Ventura action figure ads helped spark a surprise threat from a third-party candidate.
We are the campaign that's got the momentum now. The others two are on the defensive. They're throwing. I'm looking at their TV ads. Jesse now is prominently in there on their attack ads. It's not just Skip versus Norm.
Skip Norm, fear Jesse. You see that?
A 3-day, non-stop, statewide Drive to Victory RV tour captured even more attention.
It's kind of like going up to that top rope again. There's an old saying, if you don't vote, don't bitch.
And vote they did. On election night, the results stunned everyone, including Jesse Ventura.
Well, now it's 1998, and the American dream lives on in Minnesota, because we shocked the world.
And for a time, the world couldn't get enough of him.
That is a sign of the state of politics. When the voting public is so fed up with phoniness and theatrics, they go for a professional wrestler. Who, by the way, said today in his first official act he will annihilate Wisconsin.
Ventura was mobbed by national media at a national governor's conference in Delaware a week later.
Welcome, Governor-elect Jesse Ventura!
From The Tonight Show to Time magazine, Ventura overnight became a political sensation.
I've talked to some people who are already saying, uh-oh, Jesse Ventura is starting to sound like a politician.
His tax cut and rebate plans were the focus on Meet the Press, but he raised eyebrows by proposing his wife get a salary to serve as First Lady. He later raised a ruckus with a decidedly non-traditional inaugural celebration.
The body's back for tonight!
But we quickly learned Ventura would constantly straddle the line between Jesse the Body and Jesse the Governor.
That I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of governor.
Just a month after taking office, Ventura was on the steps of the state capitol using a bullhorn to argue with single mothers.
A single parent? I don't want to seem hardcore, but why did you become a parent?
Ventura did make good on several campaign promises during his first legislative session in 1999.
Working real hard together, we will not fail.
Ventura, along with a Republican House and DFL Senate, cut income and property taxes, sent rebates to Minnesota taxpayers, passed legislation to create Minnesota's first light rail transit line, and increased education funding to help lower class sizes. But his legislative accomplishments competed for attention with the sale of Ventura action figures, as well as the release of his controversial autobiography, I Ain't Got Time to Bleed.
Governor, your bragging is sending very mixed messages to the young people of this state about alcohol and how men should treat women.
And I don't apologize for anything. I'm certainly not perfect, but I stand tall and proud for everything I've done in my life, whether it be right, wrong, mistakes, or not.
The governor not only didn't apologize for revelations in the book, he reveled in telling a story from the book about visiting a Nevada brothel.
And she said, how about a trick and $10? I did it.
Although unapologetic about the book, other apologies did follow.
Have you been to St. Paul?
Yes, I have.
Whoever designed the streets must have been drunk.
First, he apologized for poking fun at drunken Irishmen on The Late Show with David Letterman.
I would just like to say that if I offended anyone, I apologize.
He issued another apology for saying someone carrying a legal concealed handgun might have prevented the Columbine school massacre.
I believe that except for uniformed police officers, a school is no place for weapons, and that carrying of concealed weapons in schools is not the answer to this terrible problem.
But it was the pages of Playboy magazine that end up being the biggest landmine for Ventura during his first year in office. In an interview, he says organized religion is a sham and a crutch for weak-minded people. He also criticizes everyone from fat people to people who commit suicide.
And I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to necessarily be politically correct.
Ventura conducts an extraordinary 20-minute press conference to explain himself, but refuses to apologize. He spends 3 weeks making the rounds of national talk shows.
Governor Ventura, someone just dropped Playboy magazine on my desk, and it says here, the next president, Jesse the Interview Ventura.
If it all seems hard to believe all this took place in his first year in office, it's only fitting that a 1999 made-for-TV movie about Ventura also seemed hard to believe.
Well, the Bod Squad was growing, but we were still 8 points behind. The question was, how could we close that gap?
GNN has projected that Reform Party candidate Jesse the Body Ventura has beaten Democratic candidate Skip Humphrey and Republican Norm Coleman and is the new governor of Minnesota.
You're the governor!
And you're the first lady.
Does anyone really believe the governor served sandwiches at his election headquarters? I doubt it. By the way, that movie on NBC was made without Ventura's authorization. Coming up, Jesse Ventura in the year 2000, including the first hint of his work to come with the XFL.
We're here to have a good time. We're here to enjoy and have fun.
Of course, that fun turns into more criticism. Also, stay with us to relive some of Ventura's memorable moments with the Minnesota media.
Congratulations for having a sense of humor, for those that do. And to those that don't, go stick your head in the mud.
I'll tell you what, I am so sick and tired of people who hear only what they want to hear, because all of that stuff was taken out of context, except for the stuff about prostitutes. I said prostitution should be legalized, and I meant prostitution should be legalized. Oh, yeah. But the rest of that stuff was just hogwash, and I think that most of the good people in this country and the good folks back home in Minnesota knew what I was talking about. Yes.
After 34 years, Nate's must end our famous dollar sale. That's right, your last chance ever to buy one Suiter sport coat and get another for just $1. Over $1 million in inventory must go, and when they're gone, they're gone. For best selection, hurry into Nate's today.
Why has the Dirt Devil Vision been the best-selling bagless upright over the last 5 years? It's powerful and easier to push and turn. But if you're looking for the ultimate bagless vacuum, check out the Platinum Vision from Dirt Devil. Only the Platinum Vision gives you all the features you want, plus a patented center dirt path that delivers more suction power than any other upright. Get extra special values on Dirt.
Pounds in 60 days.
I lost 73 pounds thanks to New Day. What a life-changing experience. I can't tell you enough how this program has impacted my life. Do yourself a life-changing favor and call New Day.
New Day, where you can get Xenical and the most effective prescription appetite suppressants available. Receive one-on-one guidance from physicians, trainers, dietitians, and behavior specialists. You take the first step, we'll take the rest with you. New Day in Minneapolis and now open in Burnsville.
After 34 years, Nate's dollar sale is ending. Over, gone. Last chance ever to buy a Suiter sport coat and get another for just $1. Over $1 million in inventory must be sold. Free parking, free alterations. Hurry into Nate's today. This sale will not be repeated.
Governor Ventura continued to stir controversy in 2000. He enjoyed being a major player on the state and national political stage, but the year not only played out like a soap opera, he even appeared on a soap opera.
I'm announcing today, right now, that I am disaffiliating myself from the National Reform Party completely as of this day.
On a frigid February day in 2000, Governor Ventura severs his already chilly relationship with the Reform Party.
The National Reform Party did virtually nothing, zero, to get me elected.
His decision sparks such a feud between the Ventura and Ross Perot factions of the Reform Party, a national party convention almost results in fistfights.
Vote of the people!
Bernie is the cancer of this party!
They have told us if we refuse to act like adults, this meeting will be terminated for safety reasons.
Ventura's combativeness with the Reform Party carries over to his dealings with the state legislature. He tries to work with them by testifying before a committee considering his long-term transportation funding plan.
Together, we can keep this year's debate about transportation positive, productive, and focused forward.
And again, he testifies before a committee considering his unicameral legislature proposals.
This issue cuts across all lines. It is not a political issue, so it shouldn't be stopped by politics.
But after getting tepid responses to both proposals, he calls legislators gutless cowards.
I just speak the truth as I see it.
So they are gutless cowards.
If they won't put unicameral if they won't put it to allow the people to decide, yes, sure they are.
In a remarkable turnaround, one day later, Ventura chokes back tears while voicing frustration about dealing with the legislature.
Because while the legislature has caucuses for the Democrats, they have caucuses for the Republicans. I don't have a caucus. I stand alone, but I have you. Don't let me down. Because you're all I got. I got elected alone, and I stand alone. And I need you. Because if I don't have you, I can't be successful.
A week later, he's back on the offensive, this time debating transportation issues with legislators on public television.
More students in K-12 education.
Now it's all changing.
You gave them a huge increase last year, but we have more kids.
I'm not touching you.
I'm sorry for touching you. I didn't want to hurt you. I know you're fragile. I didn't want to hurt you.
Right.
It turns into a bizarre talk radio debate.
It wasn't one time innocently. It was very planned and premeditated that she put her hands on me every time she talked.
I'm a chaplain in the military. I'm a Lutheran pastor. I know what sexual harassment is. Governor, it was not sexual harassment.
A more serious debate with the legislature ensues the next month when Ventura vetoes a controversial 24-hour notification abortion bill.
We learned that there is no middle ground here. And so now we move on.
The veto infuriates House Speaker Steve Swigum, who claims the governor's staff even helped draft the bill.
This was a centrist bill. This was a moderate bill. To not be able to vote for this bill, to not be able to sign this bill, Governor Ventura, you have to almost be the extremist, the radical, to not sign this bill.
Ultimately, the governor and legislature reach agreement on some key issues. They divvy up a $525 million projected budget surplus. Governor Ventura uses his portion to reduce car license tab fees. House Republicans cut income taxes, and Senate DFLers boost spending on education and human services. Taxpayers also get another $640 million in rebates. Ventura is also playing a role on the national political stage. At a White House ceremony to mark passage of China trade legislation in May, President Clinton thanks Ventura for his help promoting the issue.
You know, it unites Henry Kissinger and Andy Young and Jesse Ventura, and not at a wrestling match. I thank you for being here, sir. You didn't have to come today, and I really appreciate it.
Meanwhile, Jesse the Celebrity Ventura remains in demand.
You know what we've learned today? We've learned that the media in Chicago's no different than the media in Minnesota.
He broadcasts his weekly radio show from Chicago.
Take me out to the ball game.
And later leads the Wrigley Field crowd in singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. In June of 2000, Ventura makes a cameo appearance on his favorite soap opera, Young and the Restless.
Why don't you run with me? We'd be a dream ticket.
It's in the fall of 2000 when the governor coins his new name for members of the news media.
We're right in the middle of jackal country today.
The jackals will soon be reporting about another big budget surplus.
We are now projecting a balance at the end of the biennium, June 30th of 2001, of $924 million.
But it's a boost in Governor Ventura's personal income that creates the biggest buzz.
In my view, this can't fail.
In November 2000, Ventura is tapped to be a football announcer for the new XFL. As the year ends, it sparks new protests from legislators about his outside income and possible conflicts of interest.
They want to come after me, bring it on. Bring it on. If that's all they've got to do, then let them do it. I'm conducting state business. You're wasting my time here with all of this stuff.
In 2001, they do go after him, but just as it seemed he was hitting his stride as governor, 9/11 changes everything for everyone.
This is a time of great shock, of great sorrow, and great concern. But this is a time that we must be confident that we can meet the very difficult challenges put forth by these senseless and tragic acts.
We'll recap Governor Ventura's role in 2001 when this special edition of At Issue resumes. Also ahead, we'll look back at some of the memorable political cartoons from the Ventura years, and we'll look back at highlights of several one-on-one interviews I did with Ventura, plus a parody of a song that pays tribute to Ventura, sort of.
I will faithfully discharge.
That I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of governor.
And now, it looks like the end is near.
Run for your lives!
I want to be your vice president! What are you looking at, America? You think I'm a joke? Well, you won't when I'm your next president. Oh, yeah, live from New York, it's Saturday night!
And now for the extended forecast. On Monday, we'll have snow. On Tuesday, we'll have snow. On Wednesday, we will get a little bit of a break with freezing rain. Then back to snow.
Call AT&T Broadband. You'll get 3 months of lightning-fast broadband internet for just $19.99 a month. Surf the web, download music, play games, shop online. Do it all, faster, with a high-speed connection from AT&T. But you'd better hurry.
Thawing by mid-July.
Because unlike winter, this offer ends soon.
Join Al Lindner and his team of legendary experts as they take you to the fishing edge, helping you to discover and understand the cutting-edge tactics that will help you catch more fish.
Look at that one, huh?
For the best in fishing and hunting television, turn on to Midwest Outdoors magazine.
The rule for staying warm during the winter, dress in layers. Long underwear may not be cool, but it is warm. Make sure it's made of a material that pulls moisture away from your skin. Next, add a fleece or wool sweater, then a coat. Pick one that is wind and water resistant and also breathable. Mittens keep hands warmer than gloves. Make sure they fit snugly around your wrist. And of course, most importantly, a hat.
This winter weather safety tip brought to you by Channel 5 and Splash Safety in a Bottle, available at your local Super America. Want to know what's happening in your neighborhood? Find out with WeatherNet Live on Channel 5 and KSTP.com. WeatherNet Live is Minnesota's largest network of live weather stations, bringing you current conditions from across the state and your neighborhood. WeatherNet Live is only on Eyewitness News and KSTP.com. Trust the technology of WeatherNet Live and the experience of Dave Dahl on Channel 5. WeatherNet Live, brought to you by E85. Breathe easy, your car will.
Jesse Ventura's election was a godsend for many Minnesota cartoonists. The Rochester Post-Bulletin's Ed Fisher offered some of the best over the years. The caption here says, "Whoops, whoops," and you see Ventura shooting himself in the foot. The Star Tribune's Steve Sack drew this cartoon after Ventura slashed some of the 2002 bonding bill. The caption says, "I ain't got time to bleed, but you do." And Kirk Anderson of the St. Paul Pioneer Press drew this about the demise of the official governor's residence. The caption says, "The party he built," a reference to the Independence Party and, of course, the parties at the mansion hosted by Ventura's son. As 2001 begins, Governor Ventura faces yet another state budget surplus, but his critics say his XFL job keeps him from paying enough attention to his day job. The year ends with the events of September 11th, which ultimately might mark the beginning of the end for Ventura as governor.
Thank you for being here.
The 2001 legislature convenes amid much optimism, due mostly to a projected $3 billion budget surplus. For Governor Ventura, he finally has an ally in the legislature.
I did not come to this decision lightly. I had some very significant discussions with the governor.
Senator Bob Lassard leaves the DFL party to join Ventura's new Independence Party.
Who knows, when you get one defection, there could be more.
But there will be no more defections. Ventura presents a new budget proposal to 200 Republicans and Democrats in the legislature and one Independence Party member.
This budget is built upon a solid foundation of tax reform and tax relief.
Ventura proposes lowering the sales tax, but broadening it to cover some services like piano tuning and car washes. He also proposes major property tax cuts and reform.
We certainly will give them every opportunity to convince us that what they're suggesting makes sense.
The plan doesn't make much sense to the University of Minnesota. Ventura proposes giving the U just 1/4 of its $221 million funding increase request.
We will have to cannibalize positions. Tuition increases would be double-digit both years if this budget were to stick.
She is strength.
But those important issues will take a back seat to this.
She is wearing the shortiest shorty shorts I have ever seen. The XFL cheerleaders coming February.
The XFL season hasn't even started yet, but legislators are looking at new laws to prevent Ventura's moonlighting. Even former Governor Arnie Carlson joins in.
When President Ronald Reagan became President of the United States, he did not drag his acting career with him.
In February, the XFL kicks off in Las Vegas, with Ventura in the announcer's booth and cheerleaders on the sidelines. But bad football...
Ain't you gonna talk to me? You won.
Sure did.
Where's Coach? Look at this. Where is he? Come on, Rusty.
And bad publicity stunts combine to attract some of the lowest primetime sports ratings of all time. Just a few weeks into the season, Ventura and his wife Terry attend a White House dinner, and President Bush says he can't wait to meet the most patient woman in America.
Here's your badge.
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges.
Back at home, Ventura introduces the now infamous Media Jackal press credentials.
Until you've hunted man, you haven't hunted yet.
In April of 2001, Governor Ventura says no one can be classified as a hunter until they've hunted man. A Star Tribune columnist records the comments, and Ventura sparks another self-inflicted controversy.
Legislators, get this done.
After battling Governor Ventura over his budget for 5 months, the legislature adjourns in May with no agreement.
This process has gone on too long and is now dangerously close to causing a government shutdown.
In June, Ventura calls a special session. The day the legislature reconvenes,
A little bit left, though.
Ventura is on the golf course, saying it's not his fault the legislature can't get its work done.
And there's no excuse for it. This work should have been done May 21st.
The work of the state that he is governing, that he's the CEO of, is not finished yet. He ought to be here and make sure that that work gets finished.
Members.
After a tumultuous session, a deal on historic property tax reform is finally reached a day before a government shutdown. Property taxes for most homes and businesses are cut by double digits, and education funding is moved from local property taxes to the state's general fund. But Ventura's satisfaction over this achievement is soon overshadowed.
It was unimaginable. It was hard to believe.
In the aftermath of September 11th,
we are a family.
Ventura leads a huge memorial at the state capitol. But within a few weeks, he's faced with a state workers' strike. And after a visit to Ground Zero in New York, he goes to war with the Minnesota media.
How dare them?
He's outraged that striking state workers and reporters question why he's not home trying to settle the strike. He soon stops providing the media with his public schedule.
If the media knows it, so does the terrorist in bin Laden.
As he grows concerned he might be a target of terrorists, Ventura orders the Capitol swept for anthrax.
You think they don't watch television? You think they're not walking among us? You think they're not here? They're here.
2001 ends with Ventura facing off against baseball commissioner Bud Selig as the Minnesota Twins face contraction.
That's why I have a hard time believing it, Mr. Selig, that they're losing that kind of money and still paying the salaries they're paying. It's asinine. These people did not get the wealth they have being stupid.
The Twins controversy also provides another enduring image of Ventura's third year in office.
No, I'll interrupt you. I'll interrupt you because I find that atrocious.
Well, Governor, let him get his question on here.
At least let me finish the thought.
I'll just take my headset off.
Well,
all right. What a leader you are.
That highlight was played repeatedly on local television, and Ventura never again allowed cameras into his Minnesota Public Radio interviews. Up next, Ventura's final year in office, from his unpopular proposal to raise taxes to his decision not to run for re-election.
But somebody said you were the biggest thing to hit Minnesota since Paul Bunyan. That's pretty big.
I don't know about that, but, you know, they like to portray themselves as experts. Yeah. And they want to have the public believe they're experts, and yet there wasn't one media person in Minnesota that predicted I would win.
Jesse Ventura's final year in office puts him in unfamiliar territory. The state's economy is suffering, and just when it looks like he might run for re-election, Ventura decides enough is enough.
Good evening. I'm speaking to you from the governor's residence in St. Paul.
Governor Ventura's 2002 State of the State address is both solemn and unique. He delivers it from the governor's mansion with no live audience, just Ventura and a television camera.
Unless we bring revenue and spending back into balance, we will face continuing budget shortfalls into the future.
The gloomy state of the state comes after a new budget forecast shows a $2 billion deficit through 2003. It's so bad, Ventura even suggests breaking his campaign promise to not raise taxes.
Let me repeat that. There should be no sacred cows.
1 week later, Ventura proposes to do what he always vowed to oppose.
My throat's got to be very lubricated to get to this next part.
He unveils a plan to raise taxes on gasoline, cigarettes, newspapers, and magazines. He proposes extending the sales tax to include auto repairs and legal services. Tax increases totaling more than $1.7 billion.
You remember we had the Jesse checks. Well, I think we should refer to this bundle of tax increases as the Jesse taxes.
Along with the tax increases, Ventura proposes $2 billion in spending cuts. There's stiff resistance in the legislature.
This budget will be able to be solved without tax increases.
Legislators make good on that promise. They freeze Ventura out of the budget process and use accounting gimmicks and state budget reserves to balance the budget. When they try to beat a deadline and get the bill to the governor's office for his signature or veto, he doesn't make it easy.
At 4:30 in the afternoon, the governor's office is locked and there's no one around.
Legislators try all night to find the governor and deliver the budget bill.
I'm trying to figure out why I was considered hiding.
The bill is eventually delivered the next day.
I just want to say that Tom is my favorite legislator.
Ventura quickly begins courting House Democrats, hoping to get them to reconsider his plan to raise taxes, saying it's necessary while the country is at war.
Here, take this from me now and go fight and win the war. Here it is.
The appeal doesn't work. Ventura's veto is overridden, and Ventura calls the legislators unpatriotic.
Unfortunately, our legislators do not seem to understand that taxes and personal sacrifice are the price that we pay for freedom.
Well, using some of the governor's frankness, it's bullshit.
The budget bill includes cuts to Ventura's security and office budgets, so he sparks more controversy by closing the governor's mansion.
We always had compliments.
The laid-off mansion staff retaliates by tipping off the news media about parties hosted by Ventura's son, Tyrell. Parties that might have involved underage drinking and damage to furniture.
Don't block the car.
In mid-June, Ventura abruptly announces on Minnesota Public Radio he won't run for re-election.
That's one of the major reasons I'm not seeking re-election, is I want my privacy back. Now I don't have to tell you what I'm going to do. Now I don't have to, my children won't be under undue scrutiny through no fault of their own.
Ventura squeezes in trade missions to China and Cuba during his last year in office. But otherwise, he keeps a low profile until Senator Paul Wellstone's plane crash in October. Ventura can't resist one more controversial power play by appointing Independence Party member Dean Barkley to replace Wellstone.
I've said that I would leave all my options open. All my options were open. I've made a decision.
In early December, Ventura makes one other announcement. The state now faces a $4.5 billion budget deficit. He relishes telling the legislature, "I told you so." Up next, Jesse Ventura one-on-one over the past 4 years.
I hope that I did the job as good as I could have. I know that I did it as good as I'm capable of doing it, so therefore there's nothing to regret over. There's only smile and happiness.
Hey, snowbirds! Johnsonville Breakfast Sausage, Transglobal Vacations, and Channel 5 want to help you escape winter. That's right. You could win a family getaway for 4 to Orlando, thanks to Transglobal Vacations and the Holiday Inn Family Suites Resort. To enter, send a card to this address. Or better yet, just stop by your local Cub Foods, grab and fill out an entry form, and you and your family could be on your way to Orlando. So this winter, don't get cold. Let Channel 5, Johnsonville Breakfast Sausage, and Transglobal Vacations get you rejuvenated.
Your life is busier than ever.
Take 2. We have a lot of news to tell you about tonight.
Make the most of it with Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
Let's go right to the top story
He'll
now.
be in jail all night.
F1 tornado.
Get more stories in every newscast.
Here's a look at other stories.
Police will shake down.
Districts are able to ask firefighters have been on the scene.
And more details to understand those stories.
I just got off the phone with
Find more of the day's news in one place.
Now, new information in a story we've been following.
On Channel 5 Eyewitness News, where more stories keep you more informed. Choose your news with the new 5cast, only at KSTP.com. Pick eyewitness news stories you missed on Channel 5. Then build and watch your custom newscast right on your computer. Just want the local forecast? How about a mix of headlines and health news? You decide. It's fast, easy. It's the news you choose and watch at your desktop anytime. From on air to online. The Eyewitness News 5cast at KSTP.com.
Sponsored by AT&T Broadband and Time Warner. Find the time for you with Channel 5 at the Cub Women's Expo. Join Channel 5's Harris Faulkner and Randy Meyer to honor outstanding women. Get a chance to meet 2 of ABC's hottest soap stars. Take in a concert from singer-songwriter Jewel. Learn how to empower yourself and deal with issues that affect your life. Ladies, this is your time. The Cub Women's Expo, January 10th through the 12th at the Minneapolis Convention Center. For all the details, check it out online.
Mike Thompson from the Detroit Free Press offered this cartoon after Jesse Ventura announced he would not run for re-election. The caption says, "Jesse decided to retire as champion." You see him holding a belt that says, "Biggest twit in politics." Over the past 4 years, I conducted nearly 20 one-on-one interviews with Governor Ventura. Here's a look back at a collection of some of his quotes from our conversations from 1999 to his last appearance here on At Issue a few weeks ago. We start with Ventura's response to a poll I showed him in 1999 that found he might be a contender in the 2000 presidential race. Any message to those 34% of the populace who are going to be disappointed that you're not running?
Tell them thank you. Thank you. I'm flattered. Even to be considered at this point in time by 34% of people to run for the presidency of the United States is mind-boggling for a kid from South Minneapolis.
Do you find yourself fascinating if you could have an out-of-body experience and you were seeing yourself on television and watching what you do?
I suppose. Yeah, I'm a character. You know, always have been. I mean, if you go back to my days of wrestling, and even before that, my days in the Navy, I think you'll find most of my shipmates found me to be a bit of a character, you know, in certain ways. So
people said you had lost credibility as a national spokesperson on various national issues, but it seems now you're more in demand than ever. You were rubbing elbows with Henry Kissinger and former presidents and President Clinton at the White House. In fact, you've been there a few times. You've had breakfast and dinner with Al Gore. How did you manage to do that? How did you come back off the mat?
Well, because I always believe that if you tell the truth, you can't get hurt. You may suffer a setback from the truth, but ultimately people respect you because you are truthful. And It's the old saying that I don't have to have a good memory, Tom, because I tell the truth. Only people that tell lies have to have good memories. Well, I've never made a decision yet basing it upon whether I'm going to get reelected or not. I think when you start basing decisions upon that, then you're not unique like I am. And then you become just one of many career politicians if you're going to base a decision, well, what's good for my career? I base my decisions on what do I see as good and what must happen in Minnesota, and I'll be judged 20 years from now.
Do you fear that the chance for historic... Do you worry that the chance for
I'm not worried
significant... Are you the least bit concerned that the moment is going to pass for this historic property tax reform?
It'll be hugely disappointing that politics would get in the way of doing what's right for the people of Minnesota.
There were concerns among some people that maybe it's not the proper use and dignified use of the governor's residence. Do you have any response to that, or do you not find anything that went on there to be undignified?
There was nothing that went on there undignified if it's a private home. Now, if it's not to be the private home of the governor, then fine. And these people would have lost their jobs anyway because I'm not coming back. Now, aren't they going to look stupid?
How did it come to this, that there is so much promise, there's surpluses, and now here at the end of almost 4 years, there's a huge deficit, and there's allegations of improper use of the mansion, either real or imagined?
Define me what an improper use of the mansion is.
Well, if he's having unauthorized parties...
No, everything he did was... Furniture's being broken. One piece of furniture in 3 years?
Yes, exactly. And I have no reason to doubt your word.
And he did not do anything improper. He had my permission.
Can you believe, first of all, that it's been 4 years? You can't tell by the gray hair on your head because you have no hair.
Right. You know, it comes down to the old cliche that time flies when you're having fun.
Did you have fun? Was it fun?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This was the most challenging. I want to take time right now and tell the people of Minnesota thank you. This was an experience beyond belief. You can't know it until you do it. I will look back at these 4 years as being some of the most educational, interesting that I've ever had in my life. And I thank the people of Minnesota for allowing me to have that opportunity.
Up next, some analysis of Jesse Ventura's impact on Minnesota with political science professor Steve Smith. Also ahead, a humorous look at Ventura's disdain for the media.
Could you give us an update on how you feel? You look like you're feeling fine today. Are you?
I don't discuss my private life.
What did you mean on the radio show when you said you're going to live every day as if it's your last?
You'll find out, especially.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So I'm here to tell you this morning that yes, I will be seeking another term as governor of the state of Minnesota. That's all I have to say. Any questions? Wait a minute. Before, though, I get to those questions, I'd just like to maybe clarify one other thing. People have said that I've gotten too serious. People have said I've lost my sense of humor. Well, I want you to know that I haven't lost it. April Fools.
For a time, Governor Ventura's approval ratings made it seem certain he would seek re-election. We tracked his approval ratings through the Star Tribune's Minnesota poll. The high point, you'll recall, was in July 1999 at 73%, the highest ever measured for a Minnesota governor. His 1999 low of 54% came shortly after the Playboy interview. In 2000, Ventura peaked at 71% with a low of 62%. In 2001, Ventura started the year at 71% again, but then he dropped to 53%. He would never again recover. In 2002, he started the year at 49%. This fall, he finished at 43%. To talk about why some of those ratings were so topsy-turvy, joining me as always, political analyst Steve Smith, to talk a little bit about Governor Ventura and the impact he had on Minnesota here over the past 4 years. And Steve, I want to start with a very simple question. Is it possible to narrow down one single legacy for Governor Ventura?
Well, it's certainly a multi-dimensional legacy. I would say he promised to be a different kind of politician, and he proved to be a different kind of politician. He varied from the irreverent to the outlandish, sometimes to the outrageous. And I think most of us, 5 years from now, in thinking about Jesse Ventura, will remember that personality.
We're going to remember the outrageousness.
I think we will.
More than his policies.
I think we will. I think politicians for years will be measured against Jesse Ventura in some strange way. Are politicians really out of the ordinary? Do they stand on their own 2 feet? Do they take the gutsy move? Do they speak from the heart? And I think that's a positive legacy for Jesse Ventura. On the other hand, he certainly set new standards for the outrageous, and he'll be measured against politicians for years to come.
Yeah, and people will measure perhaps other governors as, in terms of were they able to engage people in debating public policy. That was one thing I always saw over his 4 years. He got people talking about things like unicameral legislatures and those types of things that ordinarily you're not going to hear come up at coffee shops.
Well, that's exactly right. He did promise a different kind of politics, and we might want to question whether he succeeded in that. He promised a unicameral legislature. That never really was taken up very seriously by the state legislature. The Reform Party, of course, promised a third way, that they were going to represent a centrist point of view, and the third party is nowhere to be seen.
Now the question is, did he deliver on what he said he would do during the campaign? He said essentially, no new taxes and less government. Keep spending under control.
He didn't. We're now facing the largest deficit, projected deficit that we've ever faced. And part of the reason, though only a part of the reason, is that he and the legislature put in place tax rebates and income tax changes, property tax changes that contributed to the mismatch between spending and revenue here for the foreseeable future.
And of course, I think a lot of people, because he was the leader of the state, will focus the blame on him, but there was plenty of blame to go around in the legislature.
Well, that's right. Year by year, an awful lot of what Jesse Ventura stood for was approved by most Minnesotans. But I think the long-term test is whether or not he put the state's fiscal structure in a situation that would serve the state well out into the future. And I think we'd have to say there that he receives maybe a C or a C minus.
In terms of the third party movement, is he a long-term impact player or was he a flash in the pan?
I'm afraid he's a flash in the pan. He promised a new way. The Reform Party nationally and locally disintegrated soon after he took office. The Independence Party that took its place in Minnesota never really took off. His own hand-picked replacement as a candidate for the Independence Party failed miserably in the last election. The Independence Party still has virtually no position in the state legislature.
Just a few seconds left. Will the history books treat him as a successful governor?
I think they'll give him a B minus. There are some important policy innovations that took place in education, on property taxes, and elsewhere during his administration, but overall, probably a below par performance.
All right, Steve Smith, as always, thanks for your insight and your analysis.
My pleasure.
Up next, My Way, Ventura style. Plus, we'll close things out with a few clips from the love-hate relationship Ventura had with the Minnesota media. Okay, it was mostly hate. Governor Ventura's decision not to run for re-election led to this tribute from Brad Lane at KSTP AM 1500. We put his musical tribute to video.
I did what I had to do as the governor of the great state of Minnesota.
Thank you very much.
And I saw it through despite the likes of Mo Swigum, some guy named Palenti. I planned each charted course with the help of some pretty good commissioners, each careful step along that old light railway.
Anything else, Governor?
And let me tell you something, 98 was a fluke. I don't want the voters' rebuke. So I'm ducking out. Yes, I'm ducking out my way.
We realize we did not have enough time to include all the memorable moments from the last 4 years with Governor Ventura. That could take days. But we do hope you enjoyed this special edition of At Issue. We leave you now with a collection of Ventura's comments to and about the media jackals, beginning with his response to a reporter who asked him about his singing at his inaugural party. Enjoy.
That was cute. I don't know, are you? I was there having fun, and that's what it was. And if you're going to criticize my singing, feel free. I mean, you criticize everything else I do.
Because it's me and you that get hammered by these bozos. I'm glad you're coming back in town again this fall.
Spread it out a little bit.
That's right. Relieves the pressure a little bit. They'll be on you now. I'm no longer going to refer to the Pioneer Press anymore as the Pioneer Press. I'm going to refer to it as the Pioneer Porn.
I'm supposed to ask you about the Pulitzer Prize the St. Paul paper won.
That's terrific, because I heard the National Enquirer won it the year earlier.
How much did you get paid for this chapter?
What did you get last year, Pat? What'd you make? How much money did you make last year?
Are you suggesting this is private?
Yeah, I'm suggesting that you have no more business asking me that than I do you, so when you tell me how much you make, then I'll consider it.
Jackal doesn't fight a fair fight. They sneak around, they do hit and run stuff. If you confront a jackal straight on, the jackal back down and run every time.
So you're confident you'll be able to cross that bridge on both in the House and the
You're
Senate?
putting words in my mouth, as a good reporter loves to do. That isn't what I said at all, so stick with what I say. This isn't a photo op. If you look at my schedule, you guys aren't even supposed to be here. You know? Anyway, see what it's like? You see why I call them what I do? By the way, I noticed that only a few people are wearing their credentials today. Congratulations for having a sense of humor, for those that do. And to those that don't, go stick your head in the mud. I've done a lot of things in my life. I wrote about a lot of provocative things in my book, and I'll stand up and say everything I've done when I've done it. But when they write about something that I didn't do, that I wasn't even in the particular state that I've been accused of doing something now, I will also stand up and tell them they're full of crap. I don't care what I said. I'm allowed to change my mind. At least you're not smiling and laughing now. Oh, I guess you're back at it again now.
Improved Trident has longer lasting flavor. Perhaps even the 5th dentist would like this.
Own It Tuesday on DVD and video.